Hello guys, this is Mr. Ndabezita once again, and this time we are looking at inheritance in Python. So what is inheritance? Now a class inheritance is simply a way to extend a class. This is what inheritance is. It's just simply a way to extend the class. So the new class, which is the child class, builds or overrides the logic from the parent, which we call the superclass. So in addition to this, the child class will have access to all the public fields and attributes and methods that are exposed inside of the superclass or the base class. Okay, that is fine. So we will look at the syntax for class extension in Python, and then we will see many things that is to transpire in there. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get rid of what we are having there. So let me just delete all this, what is wrong. Right, I'm going to have or define a class which is called a vehicle, and this class will have a function which I will call get the insurance cost. So get the insurance, get the insurance costs. So this is what the class would be, and this class will accept some few arguments. It will accept only one parameter. The function accepts one parameter, which is the months. So you will have to pass in there the number of the month when you call this function, and then this function would return 0. It would return 0 for some reasons that you will see as we continue in here. And then secondly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a class which I will call a scooter, and the scooter inherits from a vehicle. So you will have those brackets, and then you will provide inside of them the name of the class that it inherits from. So it will inherit from vehicle. This is how inheritance is shown in Python. Very important. And then I want to define a function inside of this class which I will also call get the insurance cost. So what am I doing here? I'm overriding the logic in there. So let me just take this, let me just copy that and paste it in there. Right, and then inside there it accepts the number of months. Very important. And then what does it do? It will return the months times 15. This is what it would return when this method is invoked. Very important that we understand that. And then secondly, what I will do, I will declare a class which I will call a car, and a car is a vehicle, therefore car will inherit from a vehicle. And then what is going to happen in there? So I'm going to override this get insurance cost. So I'm going to copy this and tap and paste it in there. So here I will pass in self, and then also the months. So I am overriding there, and then what is it that it would return? months times 25. Very, very good. And then again, I will define a class which I will call a bicycle, because a bicycle is a vehicle, therefore it will inherit from a vehicle. Very good. And then in there, what is it that I'm going to do? So this is just a remember pass would allow me, or it would avoid throwing an exception in there. But what is it I know that about the bicycle? The bicycle has by inheritance inherited the get insurance cost and returns 0. It will be as if it is inside here. We dealt with this in C#, so I will assume that you understand exactly what am I saying in there. Very important. And then what is it that I'm going to do in here? Now, first of all, I'm going to instantiate a scooter. So I'm going to say, okay, scooter, it's equals to a scooter. Now, remember this class, which we call a scooter, has a constructor that accepts no arguments. Very, very important that we see that. And then I just want to have a printout there that just says scooter insurance cost, or let me just say insurance and just use a comma in there, and then I'm going to say scooter a dot, and I'm going to say get insurance cost. Now, what will this do? Inside of my scooter, where is it? There it is. I have this get insurance cost. So I'm saying scooter insurance cost, and then it will go there and it will print out for me the number of months, and then it will multiply that by 15. But remember, it accepts one argument. Remember, parameter month unfilled. So let's provide the number of months there as 12. Very, very important. And I'm going to explain this thoroughly when I am done. So let me instantiate a car. This is equals to a car. A default constructor has been provided for us. And let me just copy this and paste it there. So I'm going to say car year insurance, and instead of saying scooter, I'm going to say car dot get insurance cost. Now remember, car also accepts an argument there, and I'm going to pass in the very same value, which is 12. And then lastly, I'm going to instantiate a bicycle. Bike equals the bicycle. Very, very important. And then what I'm going to do is just to paste in there, and then I'm just going to say the bicycle year insurance, and in here I'm just going to say bike. And I want to show you something. Let me get rid of this. Inside of our bicycle, as you can see, I don't have any method, but when I press the dot in here, you see I'm having access to get insurance cost, and it will call the insurance cost of the super class or the parent class or the base class, and then it will do whatever that needs to be done in there. Very important that we see this. So I think we should just print this out, no, as numbers. This is also fine. So what is it that we have done in here? We define a class, we give it a name. I'm having a function called get insurance cost. Self references to the object instance of a vehicle, and then it accepts one argument, months, and then it returns 0. So even if you can provide the number of months there, it will still print out a 0. The second one, the same is happening. They all inherit from a vehicle, but something is happening in here. In here, even though scooter inherits from a vehicle, what is it doing here? Scooter is overriding the get insurance in here. The get insurance cost in here returns a 0, whereas in here it returns the number of months that you provide. It will multiply that by 15, and car also overrides the method of the base class. When you provide the number of months, it will multiply that by 25. This is something worthy of noting. And the bicycle, however, I instantiate a bicycle, and then a bicycle, as you can see, it doesn't have any methods, but because it inherits from a vehicle, I know that it will call the method of the base class, and it will print whatever that needs to be printed in there. Right, so in here I'm instantiating a scooter, a car, and a bicycle, and we can try to run this and see. Now we are having some problems in here, and then it says this one is missing a number there. So let me provide the number and see what will transpire. So the very first one, let's check. Let's go up in here. Did we instantiate a vehicle? Let's check. Let us check. No, we did not. We instantiated a scooter. And let's check. A scooter inherits from a vehicle, and it takes in the number of months and it multiplies that by 15, and you get 180. The second one does exactly the same thing, but a bicycle, irrespective of the argument that you pass, it will call in the base method, which says even if you can provide the value there, I will return a 0, and hence we have this 0 in here. Something just worthy of noting. Something very much worthy of noting. All right. Right, guys, let's try to build on top of what we have. And what I'm going to do this time, it's simply to create a class so that we may be able to demonstrate something in here. So I'm going to create a class, and I'm going to call this a vehicle, and it will have a constructor, and this constructor that we have will accept in 2 arguments. So the first one will be the brand value. So I will have the brand value, and secondly I will have the model value. Right, and then what I'm going to do in there, I'm just going to have I'm going to say self dot the brand will be equals to the brand value that was passed in. Self dot model will be equals to the model value that was passed in. Very important. And then I will just have a print statement that just says vehicle. Let's just say a vehicle constructor. This is all what I will have in there, and let me just have a method which I will call representation. So this will be the method that will be overridden by a class that inherits from a vehicle. Very, very important. And then I think I am done. So let me just have a print statement that just says the brand, and it will provide the brand for us. Sorry, let me just do this, self dot, and what is it that I want to print? I'm just going to print in the brand here. I'm not going to print the model. So remember, I have a constructor that accepts into arguments, but here I'm just printing out the brand and not the model. Very important. And self will reference to the object instance of a vehicle, and then when I say self dot brand, so I am, in other words, okay, let me just not explain it first. I will show you when it runs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another class which I will call a car, and car is a vehicle, therefore car will inherit from a vehicle. Very, very important. So what is it that I'm going to do in this? So I am going to have, a constructor in there. This constructor will accept in some few arguments. First of all, I'm going to pass in the brand value, and secondly the model value, and then it will have a third parameter which will be the horsepower's value, horsepower's value. Very important. And then I'm going to call in the constructor of the base by using the super keyword in there with the brackets that is nothing, and pressing in the dot. And what is it that I'm calling in? The constructor of the base, and I'm passing inside of that constructor in there the brand value, and I'm also passing in the model value. Very, very important. And then I just want to have a print statement that says, this is a car constructor in there. Very, very important. And then I'm going to now initialize the value of the horsepower by saying self dot horse powers equals the horsepower that was passed in. And then I'm going to override this method in here. So let me just copy this and let me just paste that. So what is going to happen in here, I just want to call in, remember this is the super, and then I'm going to say a dot, and then remember what the name of the method is. The method is called representation. So why is it not appearing in there? So super dot representation. You remember this is the method that we have in there, right? And then what is it that I'm going to do in here? So in here I am calling in the method of the base class. There it is. It prints out the brand And the question is any other thing that I want to have involved in it? Yes, so I want to have a print, and I want to print out the model, and I want to say self dot model. Very good. And then I also want to have a printout of the horsepower, and I can just say self dot, and what is it that we want to print in the horse powers, because when you passed in a value it will be saved inside there, and I'm printing out that value in there. So first of all, let us try to look at something. Okay, but before we can go there, let's just come in here and have just a sample bicycle, and let's equate this to the vehicle, vehicle in there. So I know that the vehicle accepts in two things. So vehicle accepts in a brand model, so I'm just going to say Merida. Secondly, let me pass in the model value. It will be 14800. Very important. And then I'm going to say sample bicycle dot. We know we have a method in there that is called representation. Very important. So let us check why am I not having that. So we are having a method in there called representation. So when I am in here and I say, remember, this is an instance of a vehicle, and I know that there's a constructor that accepts two arguments, and when I say the dot in here, I should see a method that says representation. This method, representation, and it seems like I don't. Okay, but let me just type it manually. Representation. This is the method that I have in there, right? And then let us try to invoke this method and see if things will happen the way in which we want. We have a problem, attribute error, vehicle, object has no attribute, representation. Let me check if the spelling is correct. Representation. So it is correct. It is correct, but we are having some problems. And it is very correct in there. It is very correct. Okay, let me just have some space, and then everything is fine in here. Let me check. Add method representation to class vehicle. No, I don't want to do that. Let's come in here. So even here we are having a problem. So let me just use the dot there, and you see we don't have this method. Something must have went wrong somewhere in here. So in here, let's check, is everything fine? Everything seems to be fine. Rename the element. So you see what it says. It says shadows name self from outer scope. So what could be the possibility for that. So let's put it in here just to get rid of the error, and let me come here and press the dot. There it is. So indentation was the barrier for this. And then let me come here, check whether I will see it. So let me say dot, and there I have access to the representation. So let's run and see vehicle constructor. Let me show you why this is so. This is just the heading that we have, and then when you invoke this method, it will say brand, and it will pass in the name because you have passed in the name there as Merida, and it is printed out. So this is very, very important that we try to understand this. So this is an object instance that we are having. And one thing that I want to point out in here, when I say self.brand, and do you see what this is? It's an instance attribute brand of main.vehicle. So here, this is an attribute, and also that is an instance. It's an instance, it's a field that we have. It's a member there. Very, very important. So that is why when I am here, I'm not experiencing any problems with that. Okay, that it's fine. Let me just do what? So let me check just quickly for you. We have a car that inherits from a vehicle. That is fine. So let's just have a print in here just to separate our things so that we can see the differences. Now secondly, I'm going to have a Ford car, and I'm going to equate this to a car. Very important. And let us look at a car. What is happening in here? It accepts a brand value, a model, and a horsepower value. Very important. So I'm going to say this is a Ford, and I'm going to say it's a Fiesta. Sorry. And thirdly, I'm going to pass in a horsepower there of 80. Very important. Very, very important. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to say Ford. Sorry, this was supposed to be a Ford car. I'm very, very sorry. It's a Ford car dot, and I'm going to call this method representation. Now remember the Ford car. What does it do, that method? This method only prints out the model and the horsepower. Very important. So let us try to run this and check. So here we are, vehicle constructor. We are having two things there: vehicle constructor, car constructor. So let me see where the problem might have occurred. So here it is. So in here I'm having this car constructor. So why am I having a vehicle constructor in here? So in here I have my car constructor. There it is. And when I invoke this method representation, what it will do, it will print out the model and the horsepower. So it will print out the model. So it has to say model there. There is the model and there is the horsepower. So let us check what is happening here. So the first one, vehicle constructor, there it is, and it prints out the brand Merita there. And then we are having a line. We must have in here a car constructor, not a vehicle constructor. Not a vehicle constructor in there. So after we are having this Ford car dot representation, let's just copy this and paste it. Let's run this for the second time and let's check. So we are having a vehicle constructor, here it is, and in here I am creating a line, there it is, and then in here I am creating an instance of car, passing in those values, and I'm saying Ford car dot representation. What is it that I am expecting when I invoke this method, which is called representation? First of all, it will say car constructor, and then secondly it will print out the model, there it is, and the horsepower, there it is, but it prints out vehicle constructor and car constructor, and we need to fix this. So here we are, it's a vehicle constructor, and then in here we have a car constructor whenever I create an instance of car, and these are the printouts that I have. I don't know why it is doing this. I honestly do not know why. Okay, let me say Toyota car is equals to car. So I'm creating another object of car, or a car instance. So what I'm going to pass in there, I'm going to pass in Toyota, and in here I'm going to pass a Corolla, and then what else, I'm going to pass in the number 100, so that when I say Toyota dot representation. So let us try to print this out and check. Now let us see. Again, you see what it says. It says vehicle constructor and car constructor once again, and unfortunately this is how things are. This is exactly how the printout would be. So this, it will always print this. So when it refers to the base constructor, it will always print first the vehicle constructor. That is because it references to the vehicle constructor, because you used the super in here. So because of that, it will go to the constructor of the super class, and then once it has placed in the values that you have assigned, it will have this vehicle constructor in there before it can say car constructor and print out whatever that needs to be printed out. So please do not be amazed with this. It's because of this heading that we are having in here. Every time it refers to the constructor of the base, it will have that first printed out. So this is something worthy of noting. This is something that I wanted to share with you, wonderful people. This is Papa Fanzo, the mathematician, and I will see you in the next tutorial.